Gonna check to see if we're
Yep, we're good.
Oh, you can see it?
I can.
Okay.
Yep, I see it. Sharing.
Great.
Cool.
Yay.
Hey everybody, my name is Christin Jezak, and today on Betsy Freeman Booking Panel, we have performer conversations. I like to kind of think of this like the Lipton, the act behind the actor studio kind of deal, but not that posh. That's what I'm hoping to go for here. So without further ado, I'm obviously, I try to be funny. I do sketch comedy and I'm a performer. I have a one-woman show, Mother Teresa, that I've toured the US and Australia with, and I'm an actress who has been in some things and worked behind the camera, in front of the camera. So that's a little bit about me, but I'd like to pass the mic and introduce you to David. So David, Diaz, is it Diaz or Diaz?
Diaz, yeah.
Asked you before.
Yes, I know it's all good. I like to tell people that, you know, like you just think of Cameron Diaz.
Love it.
You'll never forget it now.
Exactly. And everyone out there in Facebook land will not forget it now.
Exactly, yes. Well, my name is David Diaz. I am a singer and a songwriter, a performer, hopefully a performer, right? Performer conversations is the topic. Yeah, so I've been singing since I was pretty young. And I started writing in high school, and I did my first album I released my first album in 2015. I'm currently working on another one, and I'm really excited about that. I'm writing. I'm still working on the recording process, but you know, doing the writing, and yeah, it's fun. Actually, I just started my baby footsteps into acting as well, so we'll see where that goes. Yeah.
Nice. And Katie, what about you?
Yes, I'm Katie Ludden and currently performing as Kathleen Marie. I, similar to David, you know, sang Love Music Forever, but I didn't really start kind of my performer project until later in life, around 2016 or 17. I need to confirm those dates now. And so, and that's when I started to learn to play guitar for the first time really in my life, and was able to take this creative energy that I'd had forever and actually do something with it. And so since then I've been writing and performing live, doing some recording, and yeah, really just kind of getting through that learning curve of how to do all the different things and bring the passion out into the world.
Nice. Nice. Is Marie your middle name?
Yes, Kathleen Marie is my given first and middle name.
Nice.
So that's what I'm going by out there in the world these days.
We have that in common. I'm also a Christin Marie.
Hi, there you go.
I don't think David's a David Marie.
No, sorry.
It's all good.
What a coincidence it would have been if I was.
I know. That would have been something else. We would have been like, whoa. Look at what's happening here. Okay, really important question that is not on our list, but I want to know because I don't know. And this is actually my first time meeting both Katie and David, and I think it's their first time meeting each other as well, correct?
Yes.
I think so.
Nice. Okay, so the question is, what is your genre, or do you have multiple genres? What does your music sound like? What's your thing?
Go ahead, Katie.
Okay. Yeah, so singer-songwriter is sort of that umbrella genre I think we give to a lot of things. I'm from the South originally, so I've definitely got some like folk country kind of influences, but I never really felt like that was my genre, because I also love a good rock song and I want to like rock out at the same time. So yeah, I don't think I have like I am this genre. And then especially this year I've been writing completely different stuff, like just way out there. And so, yeah, singer-songwriter would be the easy one. And then it'd be a matter of what the influences are that are sprinkled in there.
Nice.
Nice. That's so funny that you mentioned that, because when I tell people like, oh, I'm a singer and a songwriter, I feel funny like saying because people, for some reason, like singer-songwriter has been made into a genre.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not my genre. Like, that's not my genre. But I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense, because I am a singer and a songwriter. So when I say I'm a singer and a songwriter, people are like, oh, that's your genre. I'm like, no, it's not my genre.
No.
Yeah.
No, but I would say it's funny when people ask, because it's hard for, I think, an artiste to really like say like, oh, I know exactly what genre I am. But like, I would say generally, like, if I had to really just like put myself into a category, it would for sure probably just be like mainstream pop R&B. Cool. But that's just like sort of the top layer of, yeah, kind of what you were getting at, because obviously, like, I've also been influenced by so many different genres of music. Like, I grew up listening to obviously pop, R&B, Motown, rock, for sure gospel. So like all of those things have like definitely taken root in who I am as an artist and how I write. But I also, as a writer, I try to, because I don't just write for myself, I write for other people. So when doing that, I try to sort of stay clear of like trying to write any sort of way, and making sure that when and if I'm going to write for an artist, that it makes sense to who the artist is, and is true to who they are, or not try to think that I'm trying to do something, but just make something good, and then a producer can make it whatever genre it, because really a good song, I like to think that a good song is just a good song. And then a good producer can make it what it can or should be for the artist that is doing it. So, I mean, if you just write a song and then Rihanna wants to do it, great, it'll be a pop song. But if you write a great song and then, I don't know, someone else, Lady Antebellum or whatever they're called now, Lady A, wants to do it, then they can make it like a pop country song or whatever, you know? I feel like I'm babbling now, but
no,
anyway,
it's okay.
that's my genre.
It's okay. It's interesting because you know, coming from obviously performer background, coming from rather like film and TV and stage for theater, you know, I didn't realize that there was that weird stigma about like, you're a singer-songwriter, that's your genre. Like, I didn't realize that was a thing. So I've been schooled.
It's so funny.
First question, learn a new thing.
Learn a new thing.
Right.
We're doing good. By the way, and this actually led to another question that I have out of curiosity because of your discussions. But Danielle Bernadette says David is an amazing singer-songwriter. So,
oh, thank you, Danielle. I appreciate. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I receive it.
Yeah,
thank
that
you.
love from the comments. She also said to say good afternoon to all of us, and I'll let you guys know if any questions come up, which, by the way, you guys are welcome to put questions in the comments. I'm here, I'm watching them, I'm moderating, I got you. I got you. Okay, so my second question, because and I was thinking about like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I do comedy. And I'm like, what is it? It's fruity, I guess. That was like the first word that came to mind. How would I describe my comedy? It's fruity.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that though, because that shows that you're artist. That was like the first word that came to your mind, you know?
I know. It's like the more fun, the better. I love characters, love. Just all kinds of colorful characters. I was the person when I was growing up, I watched the sitcom and I gravitate towards the weirdo. My Kimmy Gibbler and, you know, all the weirdos in sitcoms. Kramer, love those people.
That's awesome.
That's your genre. You know, now that you said that, if we can do that for our genre, I think my genre would be angst with hope.
Oh,
nice.
I'm going to say that from now on. You guys have helped me discover my genre.
There you go. We helped you. Yes.
I'm excited.
I think we need hope a lot too nowadays.
Yes.
We do.
Amen to that.
Actually, I think that could be the genre of 2020 and 2021, angst with hope.
Yes.
Hang on. Yeah.
Oh, you know, that reminds me when I think I was at some sort of acoustic, it was like, I think it was a BMI acoustic lounge. So like the performing rights organizations, BMI and ASCAP, they do like acoustic singer-songwriter you know, sessions. And I went to one, this was maybe like a year and a half, well, clearly a year ago. So it was over a year ago. But I remember going, and one of the performers went up and she said, my style, I'm going to misquote her because I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something ridiculous. Like, my genre is sexual pop or something ridiculous. Like, and I was like, I like looked around at everyone like, what? Is that a thing? Like, and that's not what she said, but she said something like heady and weird, and like, and nobody flinched. Everybody was just like, yeah, cool. And I was like, oh, of course. Like,
All right.
I had to, if Flo is watching, I think I actually texted Flo and I was like, Flo, this person just said this.
That's amazing.
That's hilarious. That's just fantastic. I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. So we do have some questions. And like I said, as they come in, I will also share those. Our first question is, why do you perform? And I'm going to start with David, since Katie answered the last question.
For sure. Well, it's funny because the very first time that I ever performed, I was, gosh, how old was I? It was like 5. It was like a what do you call it? The talent show at school. And I remember being so excited. I couldn't wait to get to, you know, practice. I don't even think we were so young, you didn't have to audition. You just signed it up and they let you in. And I was so excited. You know, my mom helped me, like, I memorized the song, and you know, we got the karaoke track and everything. And I was like, I was so excited. And then the day came for the performance, and I just remember being mortified. Like, I was sobbing. I think they actually had to like move me because like my performance, because like I was petrified. Literally, I couldn't move. And I remember my mom came backstage and she was like, you know, talking to me, and she probably prayed with me and everything. And like, I just like, I stood like, so I finally got, you know, the courage to get up there, and the curtains open, and I literally just like stood there like a stone and sang the song. And it was a fast song. It was I don't know if either one of you know the song Escapade by Janet Jackson. Yeah. And that's like a fast, not fast, but you know, it's a up tempo. Like, I should have been like dancing around stage, you know, snapping or whatever. And I just like stood there, you know, petrified. And so I think internally I just kind of swore to myself I would never do that again. I was like, why would I do that to myself? I'm not doing that. Why would one even choose to do that to themselves again? And so I said, I don't want to do that anymore. And so it's funny because years that followed, like, I still wanted to sign up for the shows and the whatever, the talent shows, but every time I would be like, oh, I should do it, I would be like, no, I can't, because it's just too scary. And so finally, when I made it into middle school, you know, here in town, show choir is like a really big thing from middle school all the way to high school. And we had, you know, our show choir. And so I was like, you know what, like, I sing, like, that's what I do. Like, I enjoy singing. Plus, like, I'll be on stage with other people. It's not that big of a deal, you know? And so like, I auditioned, I made it in, and I started performing. And then I just realized, like, okay, this is what I need to do. Like, this, I enjoy this and I'm good at it. And I feel like this is what I was created to do or whatever. And so, we had our talent show, and you did have to audition for this because it was, you know, everybody was in choir. So it wasn't just like they just threw anybody up there who auditioned for their special numbers or whatever. And so I auditioned and I made it in, and like I closed the show, and like I got over my fear. But I think at that time it was when I realized like I don't just, I'm not just good at this, like I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. And as my life has gone on, I think even now, as I mentioned about like baby steps into, you know, acting, like I enjoy performing, like I really do. Like it's one of those weird things that personally I can't describe, like as a performer, what performing makes me feel. Like you just, I think you guys know and other performers know, like when you're doing it and when you're in that element, like you feel like sort of like the superhero version of yourself. Like you're, I don't like to think of it as like, not that I'm knocking people who have alternative personalities for the stage, like Sasha Fierce with Beyonce. I'm not knocking that. But for me, I don't feel like I'm being somebody else on stage. I feel like I'm being like the ultimate version of myself on stage. Like this is who I am. And like, I like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the best version of like myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hear that. I relate to it. If I can I jump in?
Yes,
Go for
yes,
it.
please.
I relate to so much of what you shared. And similar for me, you know, I started early on figuring out in talent shows and church plays and things like that, that I loved to sing and that people liked it when I sang. And like, you know, it was just this like great kind of dynamic. And so I did the choirs all through high school. Then I went to college and I was part of the a cappella group and lived the Pitch Perfect life for a while.
Yep.
And just loved every minute of it. And it's just always been such an energizing thing for me to do. And, you know, anything else can be going on in life and I can, you know, have an opportunity to sing or perform. And like that just becomes, you know, the whole thing. And then after college, I went about 5 or 6 years where I really wasn't doing any sort of music performing. I was making a few babies, which was great. But I ended college and I didn't really have an outlet anymore. Like they don't offer you choir when you're a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Necessarily. You really got to go out and look for it. And so it took those like 5 or 6 years to really prove to me that this was something I needed to do the work to make a part of my life. Because by the end of those years, I couldn't even listen to music at all because it was too painful for me
Wow.
to listen to it and not be doing that myself.
Yeah.
And so finally I had moved to LA. I was living here. A girlfriend of mine that I actually sang an a cappella with invited me to a show in Hollywood at the Hotel Cafe to come see her play. And I like forced myself to go to that show, even though like I could barely handle like doing these things. And like seeing that show that night like broke something open in me, and I was like, that's it, like whatever it takes, I have to do the work to be able to have this outlet and like perform and let this part of me out. So that's when I started learning guitar. I attended a songwriters workshop. You know, I just like woke it all up and let it free. And so now, yeah, exactly like you were saying, David, when I get to perform and when I get to sing and now play guitar, that is like living, you know, a whole different level than anything else. And it brings everything together for me, helps me process, helps me connect with the world. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I, you know, need in my life. So.
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me, I think it's the desire to share. I'm an oversharer. No, but it is.
I know, you know what? A lot of actors are, and like not, I don't mean that in a mean, rude way or whatever,
No,
but it's totally true. It is true. Yeah. I've noticed that.
it's that desire to share. It's like I'm sharing a part of myself. I remember the first time I got up on stage and I made people laugh, and I was in middle school, and it was the best feeling in the world. It just felt so good to help people to just kind of like have this moment, take people out of whatever they're in and just make them laugh, you know, just collectively, and just bring joy. And that's why I love performing. And that's why I love performing my weirdo characters. But it's more than that too. There's a lovability about the weirdos. There's a lovability about being able to bring to life people that people don't normally see, you know, and bring and show the beauty of who they are. Like that is a gift, and just that collective experience. So I love being a storyteller. And I mean, I know you guys are storytellers also in music. Music is part of storytelling. Yeah. And it's just a great thing to be able to, you know, you go back to the basics of like, I don't know who it was, like Plato, one of the Greeks. I remember learning this in like grad school or undergrad. Where they talk about, you know, the fact that, you know, art is meant to teach and entertain and do all these things. And it's true. And it's a joy to be able to give and be able to do that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like talking about this makes me miss the live performances so much, because those are like sacred, you know, like those moments with the people who are there in that room, the laughs and the, you know, the emotions that we share. And I miss that.
Yeah. And it's really true that you can like really, when you were talking about, or I guess whoever it was, Plato or whatever, like that we can learn and glean from art. It's so interesting. I feel like now the world really is moving away from the idea that like art is not important in schools, or, you know, it shouldn't be funded. I feel like we're moving more into the direction that it really should be, or people have that mentality. But it's really true, because even if you go to the movies or whatever, like, and you watch something, like oftentimes, whether it was comedy or a serious movie, like it stirs something. If you enjoy it, it stirs something inside of you, just the same way like a song that moves you will stir something inside you, or even a piece of art on a wall can stir something inside someone. You know, one of my favorite painters was Thomas Kincaid. And like, I could literally like stare at like some of the paintings forever and just create like my idea of what it would be like to live in that world. Like, what? Like, I mean, maybe he's not other people's favorite artist, but whoever your favorite artist is, like, I'm assuming you would be able to do that just by looking at their artwork. And I'm like, this is literally just something that is sitting there, but it has life, you know? And so it's the same as like a script or a movie or a song or a TV show, you know, all art.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny, Katie, that it brings up a really interesting point about you talking about not being able to do live performances. I have been doing a lot of entertainment live performances via Instagram Live and Facebook Live. And I was just curious, have you guys been doing any of that? How do you feel about that? Yeah, so if you want to answer that, Katie, you can go, since David just answered the last question, and you kind of were the catalyst for that question. So
yeah, I have been able to do some of like the live stream performances. I've done some on Facebook and some on Instagram. I've gotten on Reddit a couple times and just done like impromptu little shows, and it definitely helps. It kind of like, you know, gets a little bit of that itch scratched.
Yeah.
And it, you know, especially when people are giving comments and like, you know, you can have a little bit of that back and forth that you would usually have with people present with you in the room. And so it's definitely different. You know, you finish a song and you're just kind of staring at yourself and you're like, all right, you know,
Right.
this is when I would like try to talk to you guys, but I can't see
Hmm.
you, so I'm gonna just
Yep.
talk, hopefully not sound like I'm blabbering. But so that's I'm thankful for that for sure. And I've been able to be a part of some really cool ones. And I've got some more coming up, just kind of trying it out in different ways and different um, you know, techniques of how to share it. So
Yeah,
that's
where can we find out about your performances when they're coming up and that sort of thing?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook primarily under the Kathleen Marie.
Okay.
So Instagram, it's Kathleen Marie Sings, Sings at the end. And then Facebook, I think I'm just Kathleen Marie. And so, yeah, you know, I share about those things through there. I have one coming up on February 6th that's going to be kind of a cool
Nice.
reimagined live stream a little bit. So I'm excited about that. And so, yeah, it's definitely good. I think I burned out a little bit, like for
Mm-hmm.
a few months. And then I had some friends kind of be like, do this with us. And I was like, okay, okay. And and it was great. I was really thankful that they kind of pulled me out of that.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because, you know, David mentioned kind of like the stage fright, the nerves, the performance anxieties. I had gotten pretty good about not having that for live performances before we had to stop. And then it was okay, like at the beginning, doing the online shows. But the one, like after I took a break for a few months and then did one again, I had like all the nerves again
Oh,
because that muscle wasn't exercised. And so I was
Mm.
sweating and like anxious. And I was just like, why am I so nervous right now? What's happening? And I had to like retrain myself on how to handle that.
yeah. Yeah. Isn't it funny? Even though it's like you're online, but you still feel those like nerves because you know that people are watching.
Somebody's watching, right? Yeah, exactly.
What
Yeah.
about you, David?
Yeah, initially, like, so for me, I haven't done a heck of a lot of, you know, online performance. I have, but not like a lot because um, I don't, so unlike you, Katie, like I don't play the guitar and I don't really play the piano. I write well, I play fiddle and well enough to write music, but a lot of my music is like very produced. It's
Mhm.
not just kind of like, yes, I can sit here and play the guitar or play the piano. And even if I could do that, I don't play the guitar or play the piano. So like I'm at a disadvantage from that perspective. But when I do go live, you know, I have my tracks and I have my whole, I mean, you guys can't see, but like my desk is like an explosion of like cables and wires and stuff, you know, so I have everything set up here so that when I go live, I have my headphones, I'm, you know, to my mic, everything's good to go and I can go live that way. And so I did that a few times. But then I'm kind of like, okay, like I can only do like my own song so many times, and you know, it gets maybe kind of weird or boring. Not weird or
Mhm.
boring, but you know, not everybody knows my songs, you know. So I went live and I did some, you know, I did cover songs, and that was fun. And then Betsy had invited me to do. There was like a worldwide from home open stage. I don't know what it was. Something similar to where like you signed up and like, you know, everybody saw what time you were going live and like a bunch of people were going live or not all at once, but in a row. And that was really, really cool. My brother did it as well. Um, so yes, I was doing that. And then I kind of, like you, I stopped just because I kind of got like, I was like, I don't know, you know, plus I felt like maybe I should wait because everyone is doing this right now. Like literally everyone and their mom is doing this right now. So I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe like I wait a minute and then when people are like burned out of seeing the same people, they'll be ready to see me. I don't know, like, or maybe they won't. Maybe they won't want to see anyone because they're just burned out. So I just, I kind of wanted to like wait a little while. But then I just never jumped back into it. And then I moved. So then I had to like reset everything up. And so then I was like, no, you know what? Like it's Christmas time. People want to hear Christmas carols. We can't really like sing together, and we love Christmas. Well, lots of people love Christmas carols and Christmas music. So I set everything up, and I like went online and found all of these tracks for or you know Christmas songs and like new ones, old ones, traditional songs, And yeah, I did a Christmas live stream, and that was super, super fun. But I feel you, like when the audience isn't there, you know, you feel kind of awkward. Like you could try to crack a joke and you're like, I hope it didn't like fall flat. No one's like really laughing
Yeah.
because I don't really know. Like, I don't know. I can't hear the response, you know?
Yep.
Or, you know, you want it's different. I'm so grateful that we live in a time where like we can do this, you know, during this whole worldwide situation. But at the same time, it's like for those moments, it makes it a little awkward because you're like, I don't know like what people are thinking or feeling or how they're reacting to what I just said, you know?
No.
But another thing, I haven't actually done a live stream from Instagram, but partially I think that's because my whole setup is through my computer and my camera and everything. I think the only way that I could go live from Instagram is really from my phone, and so I would have to figure out a whole new setup for that.
Yeah.
But I've also done, I don't know if you guys have heard of Clubhouse. It's I guess a fairly new, you know, app situation where people just kind of, you can't see anyone, it's just audio. And people come on and talk, and there's discussions, and it's a lot of music people, a lot of acting people. I haven't really done a heck of a lot, but someone invited me, brought me on, and they were doing a Christmas show, and so I sang on that, and that was super cool and fun. And again, it was really interesting because they don't do video, they just do audio, so you can just hear the person's voice and you can just hear, you know, them singing or whatever. It's pretty interesting. I liked it. I need to sort of get involved in it a little bit more to like use that as sort of like an avenue of exposure. But yeah, it's been definitely interesting, and you know, I do miss performing live, but that's just been something that I'm trying to like all of us navigate what really it's gonna like look like, you know, especially since, like I said, I'm like working on new music. You know, those are things that you want to like, you want to try to be like steps ahead for when like you release something, but then you're like, what really is the world going to look like in 3, 6 months, a year? I don't know. Nobody
Even a
really
week.
knows, you know? Right.
Even a week
exactly.
sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of like, you know, just, I don't know, try not to worry about stuff, you know?
Yeah. Your inclination about Clubhouse is right though. I'm not on Clubhouse because unfortunately I'm an Android user and I don't have an iPhone. You have to have an iPhone to be on Clubhouse, but because it's brand new, and I've heard that people will spend hours, they'll open a room and then it'll be open for literally like sometimes like 20 or 7 hours, and just people just keep on popping in and out. It's very interesting.
And it's really crazy. I don't know much about it, but my friend, to my knowledge, I think they actually do shows on there too. Like if it's like a musical or something, like they'll just like, and you audition. I think a friend of mine auditioned to be in Dreamgirls on there, and they actually had people who were from the original, like Cheryl Lee Ralph, and I don't know, someone else, like who were there, like as the judges for the auditions. And there was like, I went on, I didn't go into the room, but I looked, and there was like 43,000 people like in the room, like waiting to audition. I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. It's weird too as a performer, especially, you know, my boss is a producer, and she's been on there and she's been talking about this, and she told me that people were auditioning on there, and I was like, really? I'm like, but you can't see them, you can only hear them. And she's like, well, they're auditioning. I was like, I don't know, it's just interesting.
It is interesting. I don't fully know how I feel about it yet, but it's definitely a cool concept. I can't deny that.
Yeah. For myself, so my comedy partner, actually prior to the pandemic, we've been together now since I think at least 2017, 2017, I think it was the end of 2017. So like 3 years, whatever. But so our first stint when we started working together, we spent 9 months getting together every single week, creating a 2-woman show. Called Unexpected Crowns, which is a stage play playing 15 think it's 15 characters total or 16
Oh, wow.
characters total. So we did that first. And then once we did that and we launched our Instagram, we're like, hey, we should do like an Instagram live every week or Facebook live every week with our characters. And praise God, you know, the technology allows for you to have more than one person at a time, like on a live. So we just got into this habit starting then that every single week we come up with a little story, we pick what characters we're going to do, and
wow.
we do it every single week. The interesting part about it, you're right, there is that strange thing about, especially with comedy, about not being able to hear the laugh, but somehow we were cool with that. I think it's partially because we had been doing film and TV for like a while prior, because that is a really weird experience. I remember, this will be a little tangent and then I promise I'm going to pull it back, but it's a good tangent. Have you guys seen what's the movie with Chevy Chase and the one with the gopher, or the golf movie, Caddyshack? Have you seen Caddyshack?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was watching like a BTS, like a behind the scenes on the DVD of Caddyshack, and they were talking about Rodney Dangerfield, and Rodney Dangerfield at that point had only done stand-up comedy in front of the live audience before he had done Caddyshack. And Chevy Chase was like, here's this guy who's like a comedy legend. Like everyone was so excited to see him on set. And he was on set with him one day, and he came like he did a take and he walked off of the set and he was all upset. Rodney Dangerfield was all upset. And Chevy Chase asked him, well, what's going on? Why are you upset? And he's like, I'm killing it out there. Nobody's laughing. And Chevy was like, well, you can't laugh because otherwise, you know, you can't get that on film. They have to be quiet. So it really is this like gut instinctual. Yeah, it's this gut instinctual thing where you have to know it. Like you have to take what you know from being on stage and just trust it. You know, you just trust it. You just do it. You just get into that wave, which is just so interesting. But so it is strange not having that feed of the audience, of the laughter. That is, you know, that can be a weird thing, but there's something interesting that has happened, and it's what you were talking about, Katie, with the commenting. Normally when you perform, you don't necessarily have that kind of interaction with your audience.
right, yeah, that part too, yeah.
But it's really fun. It actually is really fun. We actually have people who will come on and actually interact with their characters, like through the chatting. And you know, it's different, but it's enjoyable. And it is enjoyable to have even that kind of being fed that way as a performer. It's like, oh, you're part of our creative process now.
True. It's not heckling anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah,
no,
right?
Well,
you know, that actually makes me think that, I mean, and there's going to be so many things, not just in performance, but just in the world in general, of people coming up with just crazy new ideas because of this. I just thought of something right now when you were saying that when people are able to get back to stage performances, you know, I think a great thing would be in some way, for especially now everybody has a phone, for people to be able to communicate with the artist on the stage somehow, like to send a message somewhere and it to be displayed on a display, or to the artist themselves somewhere, and they can like interact with the people directly and be like, so-and-so says this, you know, or what. And I mean, obviously, maybe if you're like a big artist, it should be vetted somehow first before it like gets to you. But, you know, that's like a really cool idea, like, and have that be like a norm now, to where like, oh, like, it actually brings you closer to the audience, you know?
Yeah. No, it's kind of a cool thing. It really is. And then, you know, there are a lot of people, and you guys probably can say the same thing, where they don't necessarily watch it while it's live, but they will watch it later.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing to get to have. Like, you know, it's a built-in performance DVD.
Yeah.
It's going to be there. So
yeah, exactly. Yep.
And I like taking my work too later and cutting it up. So I'll take like the live that we did, and because it's all improv, like literally her and I just come up with, we know what characters we're doing in the storyline, the concept. So a lot of the times I'll just take the little sound bites like, oh, this was a really funny moment. And I'll take that minute or 15 seconds, whatever it is, and create it into an Instagram post or, you know, a Facebook post or, you know, something to that effect. So that's kind of nice too.
Yeah, and it's probably really great for your writing to have that like consistent discipline of like keeping on your toes and doing it every time. So
for sure. Were you saying that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, where can we watch it? What I don't know your.
So that can be watched on either go to Unexpected Crowns on Facebook. We have a Facebook page that it feeds into, or Unexpected Crowns. It's at Unexpected Crowns on Instagram. So that's where you can watch us. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Were you saying that the people who like when they watch, they comment to you as your character?
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun. And sometimes too, they're funny.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like they get in on the jokes, like whatever it is that we're talking about, you know, and sometimes even like comment and suggest things like to our characters, like, oh, well, why didn't you think of doing this, or how about that, or oh, I love that. It's really interesting.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question: how have you gotten comfortable performing, finding your chops on stage versus in practice? That's interesting. So I'm going to give it to David because he talked first.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. Well, I was just thinking, like, I mean, I think just like with anything in life, the more you do something, the more you're going to become comfortable with it. You know, I'll go back to the whole like starting out with acting thing. Like, you know, I think if I had started acting a long time ago, I would have been younger and way in my head and like nervous. And I'm not saying I'm not nervous, but like I feel more comfortable about it now because I have the realization of like, okay, like the more I do this, the easier everything will come, because that's just life. You know, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, you know? And so I think for sure, just the more I was on stage over time, just the easier it got, and the more comfortable I became, and the more fluid things were. And you know, I think that I'm still not quite as comfortable on stage, and I don't mean from the sense of nerves. I'm not nervous when I get on stage, but I'm not quite as comfortable on stage as I would like to be, just because I don't do it as often as I would like. Because, you know, you look at someone like Bruno Mars, or well, you know, just anyone who like is a great performer, and you know, they're great because they do it every night, you know, like and I'm like, oh, I'm not there, and I'm frustrated because I know I can be, but I'm like, I don't have anywhere to go on stage every night, you know, nobody wants to see me every night yet. So like I'm not there, but I think it's just a journey of like getting there, you know. And I think there was another part of the question, like how do you get comfortable, or I don't remember the whole question, but
how have you gotten comfortable performing and finding your chops on stage versus in practice? That was the other thing about
that's right. Yeah, practicing. Well, and that's another interesting thing, because you know, over the years, you know, you always, I'm sure all of you have heard it, you know, in whatever area you perform in, that like perform even when we're in practice, like just pretend that there's like 1,000 people in the audience, just do it. And I'm like, okay, yes, I understand what you're saying, but like actually having the adrenaline pumping of like real 1,000 faces and heartbeats in the audience is way different than like actual practice. And there's only so far you can really push yourself to like to perform when there's no one there, you know. And I try to do my best, you know, when there's no one there, but it's just, we all know it's different when there's an audience, you know, especially an audience that is excited to be there and wants
Yes.
to be there, you know,
Yes.
and you can feel it, you know, and the difference. And it's just, I don't know, I guess you can try your best when there's no one there, but it's just, nothing beats a real audience.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, getting comfortable performing, I remember there was a point, like the first time I played guitar and sang, it was an open mic in Echo Park. And I had just written this song and practiced it. Like, I was like, I'm just going to practice it 100 times and then I should be fine to get on stage. Like, I barely played the guitar at this point. Like, I was just like desperate to like get out there and share. And so I went to this open mic and I was super nervous and like I just kind of played and like made it through and was like glad I didn't have to stop halfway through playing the song. And so at first it was just like this, like, I just got to do it. It was like this desperate need. And then as I did it more, I began to get more nervous because I was improving. So my standards for myself were a little higher.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I had started to actually like book shows, you know, and so it was like the stakes were getting a little higher. I felt the need to deliver, you know, and so I started to feel this pressure. And it was at the point where I had started playing with a band, and one of my bandmates and friends, Chloe Babbas, shout out to you, was talking to me. You know, I was like, I was expressing nerves of some sort. And she was like, Katie, your brain does the same thing like chemically when you're excited and when you're nervous. It doesn't know the difference.
Oh, wow.
So you just tell yourself you're excited and then you're not nervous anymore. You're excited. You can put that, and it's like amazing how just that little shift mentally for me to shift from a place of fear to a place of excitement like made me able to just go through and like use that adrenaline and that stuff that was like, I can't do it, you know, that was restricting, became actually like power to do it and do it more enthusiastically. So that was like I think of her and that advice all the time. Anytime I'm struggling with like, you know, feeling nervous or worried that things aren't going to go perfectly, I just like push the excitement through, and it helps. It's been really, really helpful and so I went from a place of like leaning back, here's my show, to just being like, here's my show and I'm so excited to do, you know. So yeah.
That's cool.
I think one of the best parts of improv is the fact that you don't have to memorize anything and you just kind of go up there and do it. Right. So I think there's a huge difference for me. And then also I'm really blessed because when I'm talking about the current projects that I create and I'm working on, like I said, the history of working with my comedy partner, we're looking at 3 years of walking with the same characters. And then for my one-woman show, Mother Teresa, I developed that 12 years ago now.
Wow.
And I've performed it so many times that it just, I don't know, the characters are natural for me. I don't think much about it. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a big difference. That's the bottom line. So it's very comfortable. That's what I was just going to say. Like because they've been done for so long that I don't even remember a time. Like I remember the first time I performed my one-woman show, which is about an hour, and I had to memorize like all of those monologues. And granted, I wrote them, so it was a little bit better because they were in my thought process. But still, I'd say if I get nervous about anything, it's going to be about memorization and lines, because there comes a point where you just have to tell yourself, yes, I can do this. And so often when I have an audition sometimes, and like this is a very interesting time with the pandemic, because obviously we're self-taping everything. And if you don't know what self-taping is for our audience members, is basically instead of going in for an audition. So normally if you get an audition, it might be like a page or 2 or 3 of dialogue. and you'll memorize that dialogue to the best of your ability. You're allowed to bring the paper in the room with you, but as a professional, it always looks better. And even the comfort of, you know, just being comfortable on camera, if you have it memorized, it's just a better experience, because then you don't have to worry quite as much of like, I need to look at the paper and rely on it so much. So anyways, but with this self-taping, basically they're sending you those, you know, the sides, the scenes that I just told you about, and then you're filming it. And you send it in, you send in what you like.
Right,
You can
exactly.
do it 12 times and nobody knows, you know? But there's this amazing thing, because there have been times I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got this. Like, I remember I had one audition that was a self-tape, and it was like 6 pages or something like that. I was like, holy moly. I'm like, I can't do that. And the next thing I knew, I picked it up and I knew it. I knew it because I've trained for so long. I've memorized for so long. So the only thing that was really a problem was my mind, was the fact that I was concerned that maybe I wouldn't remember it. You know what I mean? But that was a head thing. And the truth of the matter is, when you've been working for so long as a performer, there are things that just eventually, they just come natural. The more that you do them, the
Yes,
easier it is.
exactly. Yeah. It's so funny that you were talking, and I don't want to get off on a tangent of anything else, but that was my biggest concern about even going into acting, because I was talking to someone that I was doing a scene with, and I was saying that you know, as a performer, I don't really feel uncomfortable on the stage, and I actually look forward to anyone giving me any critiques. This is something I want to do. I want to grow in it. I want to do this, like legit want to do it. I look forward to it. So other than like the natural nerves of like going into it as something new, I don't feel scared or nervous. But my biggest thing was, I'm nervous about forgetting lines. Like, I'm scared about lines, like that you would be up on the stage or wherever in your tape, somewhere auditioning, whatever, and you're there and you just don't know the line, you forgot the lines, you know. And you know, everyone's advice has really been very similar, in especially somebody starting out, you know, you just take it bit by bit, you know. You remember this part, then you remember this part, then before you know it, you know the whole thing. And you know, someone had mentioned to me like, oh well, we're singers, like this shouldn't be hard for you. And I'm like, well, although there is definitely a similarity, you know, of having to memorize lyrics of songs that aren't yours. I feel like it's a little bit different, because once you've remembered like a chorus, you've pretty much memorized like 80% of the song. Whereas like a script, even just for a scene, it's not a chorus that is repeated over and over. It's not, you're not, unless you're chanting something in the scene, you know, you're not saying the same lines, you know. So that was like a big point of nervousness for me. But like you said, but you kind of touched back on something that I had mentioned from the beginning, like you've been doing it for such a long time that it's really just, it's not something that you even have to worry about anymore. Even though you were worried about it, you proved to yourself that you don't have to, because you've been doing it for so long, and it just comes very naturally now to you.
Yeah. Two things that I just want to comment on what you said. And the first thing is, yes, it is different. Memorizing a song is different. And actually, well, depending on the way that you learn, it can be easier because you're using muscle memory. When I memorize, I have to say it out loud. If I do not say it out loud, I do not remember it. So with music, because there is muscle memory in the lyrics, when you're singing them, it's a different way of memorizing. So you're right. You're 100% correct. That is a different, it is different. It's a different way of memorizing. Yeah. You're 100%.
So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then even the fact of memorizing in bits, that is the best way of memorizing in sections. And that is similar to music, because you might say, well, now I'm on the second verse. In the second verse, this is a different movement, and it starts with this. So that is a little similar, but no, it is definitely a different way of memorizing. I memorize music easier than I memorize like sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what I was like thinking. I was like, not to like diminish, you know, either art form, but I'm like, I think that memorizing music is probably easier, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna ask one more question, and the big chanting scene. Doris, by the way, I don't is laughing. She said she laughed at the big chanting scene that made her laugh. So
Oh.
just,
I mean, hey,
yeah,
like there probably are many movies where there's chanting going on in a scene, but you know, that's not most of the scenes, you know.
it's true. It's true. So I think for the last question that I have, that I think would be a nice question to ask, because it's nostalgic, and we all need a little nostalgia. Can all use a little bit of that. So what was your first performance that you can remember like, or what was it like, and what is the first performance that you can remember? That's a fun question. So I'm going to give it to Katie first, since David was the last one to answer.
So other than like when I was a child, like that performance, the first performance as like my singer-songwriter project was at an open mic, and it was like maybe a month after I had really started learning guitar. So like way too early for me to be performing, but I was just like so eager. And I was surrounded by such encouraging artists that were like, get up there, and like, you don't have to be perfect, you know? And so I did, I got up there, and it was really amazing. Just the energy that I got from it, and really affirming that I was moving in the right direction to be putting in the effort to do it. You know, I performed 2 original songs that I had just written, you know, and learned enough guitar to get them out, and it was really fun and really sweet, and looking back, kind of scary, like how ill prepared I was to be doing that. And like I've had a few friends say that like that's inspired them. They're like, you just got out there and you did it, and like I've been telling myself I wasn't good enough, you know. And I was like, I mean, I wasn't good enough, but I did get out there, and like I didn't die.
Yes.
You know. And I learned from it, and but it was a safe enough place that I could do it, and then get encouragement, and then go back and work more. And then as you know, as time goes on, you get those skills, and you play a little, you know, different scenarios. But so then the last performance that I did, um, I did technically not the last, but the one that contrasts well with that one was my last like band show that I did. And so I did that at the Hotel Cafe, actually. Hi, my son's gonna come in and say hi and asking for a muffin right as we end up here. So the Hotel Cafe, that venue where I first got inspired to like pick it up and do it,
Yeah.
I actually played a full band show there at the beginning of 2020 in January.
Oh, nice.
So that was huge. Like just all the things, like the meaning behind it, the fact that I was playing there, the fact that I had found people who would play in a band with me and learn my songs, and just really starting to like feel that momentum going. And it was so exciting, and like just like one of the best nights of my life, just the energy there. And feeling everything, you know, kind of start to come together. And so I hope soon I can get back to doing that kind of thing again, but we'll see. We don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so cool that it was at the place where you had that sort of like moment of like realization. That's really, really cool. That's like a movie moment. Like, you know,
really powerful. Yeah, it was really incredible.
that's so cool. Well, I already shared my like moment of like trauma when I was like a child. Yeah, so I definitely remember that performance. Well, I shared the second one though too. I think I definitely remember when I decided that I was gonna get up there and perform again. When I think I was in 8th grade. And it just, I don't know, you know how sometimes like I hate like when they say when the stars align, everything aligns. Like it felt like right, everything felt so good about it, and I just knew that I was like finally doing what I was meant to do. And I just so looked forward. You know, the show was like 3 nights. You know, every time it was time for me to get up and perform, like I just felt so good and so excited and so, I guess, like high after I was finished. You know, it felt really, really, really good. So that was like my first like like, I mean, other than the time when I was like a child, it was like my first like official performance, you know. But I would say also like more recently, a couple of years ago, I did like I basically produced a show, like a large, well, for me, a large scale show. Like I booked a venue. I had a 12-piece band with like was it four?
Wow.
Like four, a horn section with like four horns, like five background singers. Like I went full out. I hired my friend who is like a stage, not a stage manager, but he does he staged me for the whole show. He's a choreographer, and he staged me for the whole show. um I filmed it. I had sound, like the whole thing, like it was like full on. And I think it was memorable for me, but also it was really interesting because I had put so much weight on it that, like, at the end of it, this is gonna sound terrible, but I was like so disappointed when it was finished, because in my own head, it just didn't turn out the way that like I really had either planned or hoped or thought. Not that it was bad, it was not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying that at all. It was by anyone's standards like top notch great. But you know, we make things something in our own heads. And whatever that was in my head, it wasn't that. And so I was like, I remember when it was finished, when it was everyone had broken down, like pretty much the whole band had like gone home, the audience had left, and now it was just like the last things were breaking down. And I just remember, like, you know, getting ready to leave, and my mom was there, and you know, she came over and she was like, oh, like proud or whatever, and like I just like I didn't collapse, but like I started bawling into her like shoulder, because it was just like, it's over, it's done. Like, you know, like after something is finished, you just have that weight off of you, you know, like
Yes.
that was that part of it. Also, and then I was like not happy about it. It was just, it's so funny how like sometimes we build these things up and they like, you know, it taught me the lesson to like, uh, I don't want to say like we shouldn't have great goals and great dreams. Of course we should, but also to like temper them with like, um, some, I don't want to, I hope people understand when I say this, but like temper it with reality,
Mhm.
in the way of like that, um, have the realistic expectations of what that mistakes happen, and life happens, and things aren't always going to go exactly the way that we want them, and that actually is okay, and it's a beautiful thing, and
Yep.
that things still will be beautiful despite
Mhm.
whatever we think they should be or shouldn't be or whatever, you know. So that was like a really interesting lesson for me to learn, you know. But that was my most recent huge performance, and despite anything else, I'm very proud of it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to answer the question, but before I do, David, where I mentioned, we know where we can find me, we know where we can find Katie.
oh yes,
Where can we find out about you and follow you and
so
learn more?
I'm same thing. I'm primarily on Facebook and Instagram, and on Facebook it's just my name, David Diaz. It's in all caps. I don't know if that would change anything to help people find it. Just if you can remember my face and type in David Diaz and find the person who looks like me, because actually I think there are other artists named David Diaz, but they sing in Spanish, so that's not, if you find somebody else Spanish, that's not me.
It's not you.
Not me. um so that's Facebook. And then on Instagram I'm King D Sings. D is in David, and Sings just Sings. So there you go.
Cool.
Nice, nice. And I'm gonna close this out and just answer the question really, really quick. So the first performance that I remember, and I'll never forget, my dad was in community theater, and my mother's mother, so my grandmother, my dad's mother-in-law, also did community theater. And it was the first show I was in with the two of them, and it was
Oh wow.
Annie.
Aw.
And I'll never forget, the moment we had, they had built these bunk beds for the orphans, and obviously I was an orphan. I was like 8 years old. And the first moment the curtain went up and we were in these bunk beds, and I'll never forget the curtain going up and just seeing the lights, because it's piercing, especially when you're on stage. You don't see anything else. You literally just see the lights. And that's what I remember. I don't remember anything else, but I just remember that moment. It's so like, visual, and just such a memory, and just really cool getting to be able to do community theater with like my grandmother and my dad,
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in. You can tune in again next week on Betsy Freeman Booking at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we won't be here, but someone else will.
Actually, I think I might be here.
David
it's either next weekend or the weekend after, but it might be next weekend. So
actually, I might be next weekend as well.
Oh, cool. Nice. So maybe we'll see each other again. Yeah.
Take two.
All right. Have a great week, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.